The pharmacy keeps filling my prescriptions. I stopped going to doctors 6 months ago. I don't usually pay much attention to the mail, but when you start getting 3 or 4 orange pill bottles a week, you notice. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Some computer glitch at Westbrook Pharmacy. Maybe someone with a similar name in their system. I'd been in there exactly once back in March to pick up antibiotics for a sinus infection. Standard stuff. 10 days of amoxicillin cleared it right up. That was 6 months ago. March 23rd to be exact. I remember because it was my sister's birthday, and I'd felt like garbage at her dinner party. Kept excusing myself to blow my nose in the bathroom. Patterson at the urgent care clinic had written the prescription on one of those electronic pads, and I'd picked it up the same day. Since then, I haven't been to a doctor. Haven't needed to. I'm 28, I work from home doing data entry for an insurance company, and I'm generally pretty healthy. No chronic conditions, no regular medications, nothing. My medicine cabinet has Tylenol, some old Tums, and a half-empty bottle of Benadryl from 2 years ago when I thought I was allergic to something I ate. Turns out it was just food poisoning. But the prescriptions keep coming. It started in early September. I came home from a grocery run, and there was a package from Westbrook Pharmacy on my doorstep. I figured it was a mistake, maybe meant for apartment 3 instead of apartment 13, but my name was right there on the label. Sarah Vickers, my address, my date of birth. Inside was a bottle of something called loratadine. The label said to take 1 tablet daily for seasonal allergies. I didn't have seasonal allergies. I mean, sometimes in spring my eyes get a little itchy, but nothing worth medicating. I set it aside, made a mental I didn't call. I meant to, but you know how it is. Work got busy, I forgot about it, and honestly, it wasn't hurting anything to just have an extra bottle of allergy pills sitting around. Maybe I'd need them eventually. The next one came 4 days later. This time it was omeprazole. For acid reflux and heartburn, the label said. Take 1 capsule every morning before eating. I definitely didn't have acid reflux. I ate whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. Never had any problems. This one bothered me more than the allergy pills because it felt more specific, more wrong. I did call the pharmacy that time. Got put on hold for about 15 minutes, listening to some instrumental version of a song I couldn't quite place. When someone finally picked up, a woman with a tired voice asked for my information. "Yeah, hi, I'm getting prescriptions I didn't order," I said. "I haven't been to a doctor in months, but you guys keep sending me medications." "What's your date of birth?" I told her. Heard typing. "And you said you haven't picked up any prescriptions recently?" "No, they're being delivered to my apartment, but I didn't request them." More typing. A long pause. "I'm showing several active prescriptions in your profile, Ms. Vickers, all sent electronically from your primary care physician, Patricia Hammond. Is that correct?" "I don't have a primary care physician," I said. "I went to an urgent care once in March, but that's it. I don't know who Dr. Hammond is." Another pause. "Our records show you've been a patient of Dr. Hammond's since April. She's submitted multiple prescriptions for you over the past few months." "That's impossible. I've never even heard that name before." The woman's voice got a little more careful, a little more distant. "I can only fill prescriptions that are sent to us by licensed physicians, ma'am. If you have concerns about your medical care, you'll need to contact your doctor's office directly. But I'm telling you, I don't have a doctor. This is a mistake. I can give you Dr. Hammond's office number if you'd like. I wrote it down, more out of frustration than anything else. Thanked her, hung up, stared at the number for a while. The area code was local, the exchange was familiar, somewhere in the medical district downtown. I didn't call, I told myself I would, but something about it felt off in a way I couldn't articulate. Like if I called that number, I'd be confirming something I didn't want to confirm, acknowledging a reality I wasn't part of. Instead, I threw away the omeprazole, tossed it in the kitchen trash, buried it under coffee grounds and takeout containers. Problem solved, right? The prescriptions kept coming. One every few days at first, then more frequently. By late September, I was getting 2 or 3 a week. The bottles would just appear on my doorstep, in those white pharmacy bags with my name printed on the receipt. I started recognizing the delivery guy, a middle-aged man with a limp who never made eye contact, just left the bags and walked back to his car. The medications got more specific, more strange. Sertraline for depression and anxiety. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't anxious. Well, okay, maybe I was getting a little anxious about the constant stream of mystery prescriptions, but that seemed like a reasonable response to an unreasonable situation. Metformin for type 2 diabetes. My blood sugar was fine. I'd had it checked during a routine physical 3 years ago, back when I still had insurance through my old job. Perfect levels. Amlodipine for high blood pressure. My blood pressure had always been on the low side, if anything. I got dizzy sometimes when I stood up too fast. Atorvastatin for high cholesterol. I was 28 years old and ran 3 miles every other morning. My cholesterol was not high. I stopped opening them. Just started collecting the bags in my coat closet, stacking them on the floor behind my winter boots. Out of sight, out of mind. Every time I heard a car door close outside my building, I'd tense up, wait to hear footsteps on my landing. The soft thump of a bag being set down. The pharmacy knows what you need before you feel it missing. That's what the pharmacist had said when I'd gone in to pick up those antibiotics back in March. I'd made some comment about how efficient their system was, how I'd barely hung up with the urgent care before I got a text saying my prescription was ready. She'd smiled, said that line, and I'd thought it was just good customer service. Now it felt different. Wrong. By October, I was getting prescriptions daily, sometimes twice a day. My closet was filling up with white bags, orange bottles rattling inside like some kind of pharmaceutical graveyard. I stopped checking the labels, stopped reading what they were for. I didn't want to know. But I couldn't help noticing the pattern. Each medication treated something I didn't have. But each one was also treating something that could theoretically develop. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, acid reflux, anxiety, depression. These were all things that could happen to anyone. Eventually. Common conditions, age-related, stress-related, lifestyle-related. It was like someone was preparing me for a future I hadn't lived yet, preemptively medicating me for diseases I might develop, conditions I might face. A pharmaceutical insurance policy. The thought should have been comforting. Preventive care, right? Staying ahead of potential problems. Instead, it made my skin crawl. I started having trouble sleeping, not insomnia exactly, but this weird thing where I'd wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning, completely alert, heart pounding for no reason. I'd lie there in the dark, listening to the building settle, the pipes creaking, and I'd think about all those bottles in my closet. Dozens of them now, maybe 50 or 60, all with my name on them, all from a doctor I'd never met. On October 15th, I got a prescription for Zolpidem for insomnia. I hadn't told anyone I was having trouble sleeping. I lived alone, worked from home, barely talked to anyone except my sister on the phone once a week. There was no way anyone could know. But the label was very specific. Take 1 tablet at bedtime as needed for sleep initiation and maintenance difficulties. Sleep initiation and maintenance difficulties. That was the exact problem I was having. Not just trouble falling asleep, but trouble staying asleep. Waking up in the middle of the night, unable to get back down. I stood in my kitchen holding the bottle and felt something cold settle in my chest. That was when I decided to call Dr. Hammond's office. The number rang 4 times before someone picked up. A receptionist, young-sounding, cheerful. Hammond Medical Associates, this is Brittany, how can I help you? Hi, I'm trying to reach Dr. Hammond, or actually, I'm trying to figure out if I'm a patient there. My name is Sarah Vickers. Sure, let me pull up your file. Date of birth? I gave it to her. Heard typing? Clicking? Okay, yes, you're definitely in our system. You've been Dr. Hammond's patient since April 9th. Is this about scheduling an appointment? No, I've never actually been to your office. I think there's been some kind of mistake. The typing stopped. I'm sorry, what do you mean? I mean, I've never met Dr. Hammond. I've never been to your office, but I keep getting prescriptions from her, and I don't understand how that's possible. A pause. Well, you've had several appointments with Dr. Hammond over the past 6 months. Let me see. April 9th, April 23rd, May 7th, May 21st, June 4th, June 18th, July 2nd, July 16th, July 30th, August 13th, August 27th, September 10th, September 24th, October 8th. All regular follow-ups for your ongoing care. My mouth went dry. That's not possible. I haven't been to any of those appointments. Are you sure? Sometimes people forget, especially if they're managing multiple conditions. I'm not managing any conditions. I don't have any conditions. And I definitely haven't been to 13 doctor's appointments in 6 months. Another pause. Longer this time. Ms. Vickers, I'm looking at your chart right now. You have documented visits for all of those dates, with vitals taken, assessments completed, prescriptions issued. Hammond has extensive, what kind of treatment plan for what? I can't discuss your medical information over the phone, but if you'd like to schedule an appointment to review your chart with Dr. Hammond, I want to see my records. I have a right to see my medical records. Of course, you'll need to submit a request in writing and we can have those prepared for you within 30 days. 30 days? That's the standard time frame. Or you can come in and review them in person with Dr. Hammond. I actually have an opening tomorrow at 2 p.m. if you'd like to. No, I don't want an appointment. I want to know who's been using my name, who's been going to these appointments. Ms. Vickers, I can assure you that all of our records are secure and HIPAA compliant. If you're concerned about identity theft, you should contact the police, but I can tell you that all of your appointments have been verified with your photo ID and insurance information. I didn't have insurance. I'd lost it when I left my old job 14 months ago. I'd been meaning to get new coverage but kept putting it off because I was healthy and the premiums were expensive. What insurance? I asked. More typing. You're covered through Blue Cross Blue Shield. Policy number 779-43218. It's been active since April 1st. I don't have insurance. According to our records, you do. Your co-pays have all been paid. Your coverage is current. Is there anything else I can help you with today? I hung up, set the phone down on the counter, and stared at it like it might start ringing on its own. Like Dr. Hammond herself might call to explain what the hell was happening. The apartment was very quiet. I could hear the refrigerator humming, the distant sound of traffic from the street below. Normal sounds, ordinary sounds. I went to my closet and pulled out all the pharmacy bags, dumped them on my living room floor, started sorting through the bottles, reading the labels, really reading them this time. Each one had a prescription number, a date, instructions for use, and at the bottom, in small print, prescribed by Dr. Patricia Hammond, MD. I lined them up in chronological order. The first one, the loratadine for allergies, was dated September 2nd. Then the omeprazole on September 6th. Then others coming faster and faster until by mid-October I was getting multiple prescriptions every single day. But according to the receptionist, my first appointment with Dr. Hammond had been on April 9th, 5 months before the first prescription arrived. What had happened in those 5 months? What medications had I supposedly been taking between April and September that I'd never received? I grabbed my laptop, pulled up my bank account, started scrolling through transactions, looking for anything related to medical expenses, co-pays, prescriptions, anything. Nothing. No charges from Westbrook Pharmacy. No payments to Hammond Medical Associates. My account showed exactly what I expected. Rent, utilities, groceries, the occasional takeout order. Nothing unusual. But if I had insurance, if I'd been going to appointments, there should be a record. A paper trail. Something. I tried logging into the Blue Cross Blue Shield website, using my name and the policy number the receptionist had given me. The system didn't recognize my information. No account found, so I didn't have insurance. But Dr. Hammond's office thought I did, and someone had been paying for appointments, for prescriptions, for all of this. I picked up one of the bottles, stared at my name on the label. Sarah Vickers. Date of birth, March 11th, 1996. Address, apartment 13, 452 Oak Street. All correct, all me, but not me. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Your prescription is ready for pickup at Westbrook Pharmacy. I hadn't ordered a prescription, hadn't been to a doctor, hadn't done anything. I texted back, "Who is this?" The response came immediately. "This is an automated message from Westbrook Pharmacy. Your prescription for alprazolam is ready for pickup. Please bring your ID." Alprazolam. I knew that one. Anti-anxiety medication. I wasn't anxious. Well, okay, I was anxious right now, but I had a pretty good reason to be anxious. Someone was apparently living a parallel medical life under my name, racking up prescriptions and appointments I knew nothing about. That seemed like a reasonable thing to be anxious about. I looked at the pile of bottles on my floor, at my phone, the text message glowing on the screen, at the window where dusk was settling over the city. Streetlights starting to flicker on. I needed to figure out what was happening. I needed to see Dr. Hammond. See this office where I'd supposedly been a patient for 6 months. I needed to understand who had been using my name, my information, my identity. Tomorrow, I'd go tomorrow. I'd walk into that office and demand answers. But tonight, I did something I knew was stupid, even as I was doing it. I opened the bottle of Zolpidem, the sleeping pills, shook one out into my palm. Small, white, round, innocuous. The label said to take one at bedtime. I'd been having trouble sleeping. This would help. This was what it was for. I swallowed it dry, felt it stick in my throat for a second before going down. Then I went to bed. I don't know what I expected. Maybe that I wouldn't sleep at all, that it was all some kind of placebo, that nothing would happen, or maybe that I'd sleep too well, that I'd wake up 12 hours later groggy and confused. What happened was different. I fell asleep normally, drifted off around 11, sank into darkness, no dreams, but I woke up at 3:17 a.m., according to my bedside clock, and I wasn't in my bed. I was standing in my bathroom, facing the mirror. The light was on. I was wearing the same pajamas I'd gone to bed in, but my feet were cold on the tile floor. I could see myself in the mirror, but I didn't remember getting up, didn't remember walking here. And there was something written on the mirror in what looked like soap or toothpaste. Take your medicine. I stood there, staring at the words, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The handwriting was messy, shaky, like it had been written by someone with an unsteady hand. My hand. I looked down. There was white residue on my right index finger. Toothpaste. I'd written it. In my sleep or in some kind of fugue state, I'd gotten up, come to the bathroom, and written this message to myself. Take your medicine. I backed out of the bathroom, turned on every light in my apartment, checked the front door, locked, chain on, no one had come in. No one could have come in, just me, alone, sleepwalking, writing messages I didn't remember. I didn't go back to bed. I sat on my couch, wrapped in a blanket, and waited for morning. Watched the sky lighten through my window. Watched the world wake up. Normal people getting ready for normal days. At 8 a.m., I called Hammond Medical Associates. I need to see Dr. Hammond today, I told the receptionist. It's urgent. I can get you in at 2 p.m. Is that... I'll take it. She confirmed my information, reminded me to bring my insurance card and ID, told me they'd see me this afternoon. I spent the morning trying to act normal. Showered, got dressed, made coffee I didn't drink, sat at my computer and stared at spreadsheets for my data entry job, not processing any of it. At 1:30, I drove downtown to the medical district, found the building easily enough, a modern glass structure with a directory in the lobby. Hammond Medical Associates, Suite 412. 4th floor. I took the elevator up, watched the numbers climb. The hallway was quiet, carpeted, lined with office doors. Suite 412 was at the end, near the emergency exit stairs. The waiting room was small but nice. Comfortable chairs, magazines on a coffee table. Soft music playing from hidden speakers. A reception desk with a young woman behind it typing on a computer. Hi, I said. I have a 2 p.m. appointment. Sarah Vickers. She smiled up at me. Of course, Ms. Vickers. We've been expecting you. Just need to see your ID and insurance card. I handed over my driver's license. I don't have an insurance card. I was told I have coverage, but I've never received a card. Oh, that's fine. We have all your information on file. Hammond will be with you shortly. I sat down in one of the chairs, picked up a magazine without looking at what it was. The waiting room was empty except for me. No other patients, just me and the receptionist and the soft, instrumental music. A door opened. A woman in a white coat stepped out, holding a tablet. She was maybe 50, with short gray hair and glasses, professional and put together. "Sarah? I'm Dr. Hammond. Come on back." I followed her down a short hallway to an exam room. Standard setup. Exam table with paper covering, a chair, a computer on a rolling desk, posters about hand washing and flu shots on the walls. "Have a seat," she said, gesturing to the exam table. I sat. The paper crinkled under me. Hammond pulled up my chart on the computer, scrolling through screens of information I couldn't see from this angle. "So," she said, "how have you been feeling? Any concerns since your last visit?" "I've never been here before," I said. "I've never met you before right now." She looked up at me, her expression neutral. "I'm sorry, I don't understand." "I keep getting prescriptions from you, medications for conditions I don't have. But I've never been to this office. I've never seen you. And your receptionist said I've had 13 appointments over the past 6 months, but I haven't been to any of them." Dr. Hammond set down her tablet, folded her hands in her lap. "Sarah, I've been your physician since April. We've had regular appointments every 2 weeks to manage your conditions and adjust your medications as needed." "What conditions? I don't have any conditions." She turned the computer screen toward me. "According to your chart, you're currently being treated for generalized anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, gastroesophageal reflux disease, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, type 2 diabetes, seasonal allergies, and insomnia." I stared at the screen, at the list of diagnoses, each with a date and a code, at the medications prescribed for each one, at the "this isn't me," I said. "I don't have any of these things." "Sarah, I understand that it can be difficult to accept a diagnosis, especially multiple diagnoses, but denial doesn't change the reality of your health situation. These are all manageable conditions and you're responding well to treatment. I'm not taking any of the medications. I've been throwing them away." Her expression shifted slightly. Concern, maybe, or something else. "You haven't been taking your prescriptions?" "No, because I don't need them, because I'm not sick." She stood up, came closer. "Sarah, I need you to be honest with me. Have you been experiencing any memory problems? Gaps in your recall, lost time, confusion about where you've been or what you've done?" I thought about waking up in my bathroom, about the message on the mirror. "No," I said, "because one of the things we've been monitoring is the possibility of a memory disorder. You came to me in April, complaining of missing time, of finding yourself in places without remembering how you got there. That's why we started you on your initial medication." "What initial medication?" She turned back to the computer, scrolled up. "Donepezil, we started you on 5 milligrams daily in April, increased to 10 milligrams in May." "For what?" "For your memory issues. You were experiencing significant cognitive difficulties and we wanted to address them before they progressed." "I don't have memory issues. I remember everything. I remember that I've never been here before. I remember that I haven't been to a doctor in months." "But you don't remember our appointments. You don't remember the conversations we've had about your health, about your treatment plan. That's concerning, Sarah." That suggests that your memory problems are worsening, not improving. I stood up. This is insane. I'm not sick. Someone is using my name, coming to these appointments, getting these prescriptions. But it's not me. I've seen you at every single appointment, Dr. Hammond said quietly. I've taken your vitals, discussed your symptoms, adjusted your medications based on your response. It's been you, Sarah. Every time. That's impossible. Is it? She pulled out her phone, swiped through something, then held it up to show me. I take photos of all my patients for their charts. This is you, isn't it? The photo showed a woman sitting on an exam table just like this one. Same paper covering, same walls, same posters. The woman was me. Same face, same hair, same build. She was wearing clothes I owned. A blue sweater I'd bought last winter. But I had never been in this room before today. I had never sat for that photo. How did you get that picture? I asked. I took it during your first appointment, April 9th. You were wearing that blue sweater. You said it was your favorite. We talked about your anxiety, about the memory problems you'd been having. You cried a little. You said you were scared. I wasn't wearing the blue sweater now. I was wearing a gray t-shirt and jeans. But I could see it in my closet in my mind, hanging right where I'd left it. When was the last time you wore your blue sweater? Dr. Hammond asked. I tried to remember. Tried to think back through the past few months. But it was like reaching into fog. I knew I owned the sweater. I knew I liked it, but I couldn't remember the last time I'd actually put it on. I don't know, I admitted. Do you remember what you did on April 9th? No, I don't keep track of every single day. What about April 23rd, May 7th? Any of the dates I mentioned? I didn't. They were just dates, just days that had passed, like any other day. I worked from home. I didn't go many places. My routine was consistent. One day bled into another. That's normal, I said. Most people don't remember random dates from months ago. But you remember that you haven't been to a doctor. You're certain of that. Yes. Why? The question caught me off guard. Because I would remember something like that. Going to a doctor's appointment, getting diagnosed with multiple conditions, starting medications. Those aren't things you forget. Unless you have a memory disorder, Dr. Hammond said gently. Unless your brain is actively preventing you from forming or retaining those memories. That's what we've been treating, Sarah. That's what the Dunpeasel is for. I felt dizzy suddenly, like the room was tilting, like the floor wasn't quite solid under my feet. I want to see all of my records, I said. Everything. Every appointment. Of course, I can print them out for you right now if you'd like. She turned back to the computer, started clicking through screens. The printer in the corner whirred to life, started spitting out pages. I watched the stack grow. 5 pages, 15, 20. When it finally stopped, Dr. Hammond handed me the pile. This is everything from the past 6 months. All of our appointments, all of your lab work, all of my clinical. I flipped through the pages, saw my name on every one, saw dates, times, vitals, blood pressure readings, heart rate, weight, all slightly different from visit to visit, like they'd been taken from a real person over time. Lab results showing elevated cholesterol, elevated blood sugar, all the things the medications were supposed to be treating. And patient reports continued anxiety about memory lapses. States she frequently loses track of time and finds herself in unfamiliar locations. Denies substance use. Affect is anxious but appropriate. Insight poor. Agreed to trial of sertraline in addition to current donepezil. Patient appears more stable today. Memory still impaired but less distressed about it. Reports compliance with medications, though cannot recall taking them. Discussed importance of establishing routine. Refilled all current prescriptions. Patient seems confused about previous visits. Asked why she was here. Explained treatment plan again. Patient became agitated, insisted she had never been to office before. Calmed with reassurance. May need to consider increasing donepezil dose or adding memantine. I read through all of it, every appointment, a patient who sounded exactly like me right now. This isn't real, I said. Why would someone do that? I don't know. Insurance fraud? Identity theft? I don't know. But it's not real. Dr. Hammond sat down in the chair looking at me with what seemed like genuine concern. Sarah, I want you to consider the possibility that your memory disorder is more severe than we initially thought, that you're experiencing significant gaps in your recall, and that those gaps are preventing you from recognizing your own medical history. I don't have a memory disorder. Then explain the photo. Explain the prescriptions that have your name on them that are being filled by a pharmacy you admit you've been to. Explain how I have detailed you could have made it all up. Why would I? I didn't have an answer for that. What possible reason would a doctor have to fabricate an entire medical history for a patient? To prescribe medications to someone who didn't need them? To create false records, false lab results, false everything? It didn't make sense unless I really was sick. Unless I really did have a memory disorder and I'd been coming to these appointments, having these conversations, living this parallel medical life that I couldn't remember. No, that wasn't possible. I would know. I would remember. Wouldn't I? I want to take a test, I said. A memory test, right now. Prove that I don't have a memory disorder. Dr. Hammond nodded. Okay, we can do that. She pulled out a form from a drawer, set it on the desk. This is a standard cognitive assessment. I'm going to ask you some questions, have you do some simple tasks. It's not comprehensive, but it will give us a baseline. She started with easy things. What's your name? What's today's date? Where are we right now? I answered all of them correctly. Sarah Vickers. October 16th, 2024. Hammond Medical Associates, Suite 412. Then harder things. Remember these 3 words. Apple, table, penny. I'll ask you to repeat them in a few minutes. She had me count backwards from 100 by 7s, had me draw a clock showing 3:15, had me copy a simple geometric design. I did all of it, no problems, no difficulties. Okay, she said. Now tell me those 3 words I asked you to remember. Apple, table, penny. I said them without hesitation. Good. Now can you tell me what you had for breakfast this morning? I opened my mouth to answer, then stopped. What had I had for breakfast? I tried to remember. Tried to picture myself in my kitchen, making coffee, eating something. But the image wouldn't come. It was like trying to see through frosted glass. I don't remember, I said. That's okay. What about yesterday? What did you do yesterday? Yesterday, October 15th. I'd been at home working. Hadn't I? I worked from home every day. Data entry, spreadsheets, the same routine. But I couldn't remember any specific details. Couldn't remember what I'd eaten, what I'd worked on, what I'd done in the evening. I was home, I said. Working. What did you work on? Data entry for the insurance company. Which insurance company? I couldn't remember. I'd been working for them for over a year, but I couldn't remember the name of the company. Can you tell me what you did last weekend? Last weekend, Saturday and Sunday, October 12th and 13th. Nothing. No memories. Just blank space where the days should be. I don't remember, I whispered. Hammond's expression was kind, but sad. Sarah, this is what I've been trying to tell you. You have significant memory impairment. You can remember things from your distant past. You can form new short-term memories, but your medium-term recall is severely compromised. Days and weeks blur together. You lose track of time. You don't remember appointments, conversations, events. But I remember not going to the doctor. I remember that clearly. Do you? Or do you just know that you don't have any memories of going to the doctor and you're interpreting that absence as proof that you didn't go? I felt something crack inside me, some certainty I'd been holding on to. What's wrong with me? I asked. We're still trying to determine that. Your symptoms are consistent with several possible conditions. Early onset dementia, possibly, or a dissociative disorder, or something else we haven't identified yet. That's why we've been monitoring you so closely, adjusting your medications, trying to find the right treatment. The medications aren't working. Some are, some aren't. The donepezil seems to be helping with your short-term memory, but your medium-term recall is still impaired. We may need to try something different. I looked down at the stack of papers in my hands, my medical records, my history, a life I didn't remember living. What happens now? I asked. Now we continue treatment. You keep taking your medications, you keep coming to appointments, and we monitor your progress. Memory disorders are complicated, Sarah. There's no quick fix. But we're doing everything we can. I nodded. Felt tears starting to build behind my eyes. I'm scared, I said. I know. But you're not alone. We're going to figure this out together. She wrote me a new prescription, another medication to add to the pile. Memantine, she said. It might help where the donepezil wasn't enough. I left the office in a daze. Drove home on autopilot, barely paying attention to the road. Kept thinking about what she'd said, about memory gaps and lost time, and the possibility that I was sick, really sick, in a way I couldn't even perceive. When I got home, I went straight to my closet, pulled out the blue sweater from the photo. It smelled like perfume. Not my perfume. Something floral and sweet that I'd never worn. I checked the tag, my size. Definitely mine. But it smelled like someone else. I went to my bathroom. The message on the mirror was still there, faint but visible. Take your medicine. I'd written that in my sleep or in some fugue state I didn't remember. I'd gotten up, walked to the bathroom, and written myself a reminder. Because some part of me knew, some part of me remembered. I went back to the living room, looked at all the prescription bottles still scattered on the floor, picked up the newest one, the memantine from today's appointment. The label had my name, the date, instructions for use. I opened it, shook out a pill, swallowed it. Then I picked up the Donepezil, the memory medication I'd supposedly been taking since April, but had no memory of receiving. I found it in the pile. An older bottle, nearly empty. The date on it was from April 9th, the day of my first appointment with Dr. Hammond. I'd had this bottle for 6 months. I'd been taking these pills for 6 months. I just didn't remember. I sat on the floor, surrounded by medications, and tried to remember. Tried to pull up any memory of going to the pharmacy, of opening these bottles, of swallowing these pills. Nothing. But the bottles were here. The pills were gone. Someone had been taking them. It had to be me. I pulled out my phone, opened the calendar app, started scrolling back through the past 6 months, looking for any appointments Nothing. My calendar was almost empty. Just a few work deadlines, my sister's birthday, a dentist appointment I'd canceled. But according to Dr. Hammond, I'd been seeing her every 2 weeks. 13 appointments. That should be in my calendar. I should have reminders, unless I'd never put them in. Unless I'd been going to these appointments without scheduling them, without planning for them, without any conscious awareness that they were happening. I called my sister. She answered on the 3rd ring. Hey, what's up? Can I ask you something weird? Always. Have I seemed different to you lately, like in the past few months? A pause. Different how? I don't know, forgetful, confused, anything unusual? Not really. I mean, we don't talk that often. Usually just once a week or so. Why? When we talk, do I ever mention going to the doctor or being sick? No. Are you sick? Sarah, what's going on? I don't know, maybe. I'm trying to figure something out. You're scaring me. Are you okay? I think so. I'm just confused about some things. Do you want me to come over? No, it's fine. I'll call you later. I hung up before she could ask more questions. My sister would have noticed if something was wrong with me. We talked every week. If I was having serious memory problems, if I was losing time and forgetting conversations, she would have said something, unless I was good at hiding it, unless I'd been compensating, covering up the gaps, pretending everything was normal, or unless it had only just started, unless the memory problems were new, recent, getting worse. I looked at the prescription for memantine. Hammond had said we needed to try something different because the Donepezil wasn't enough, because my memory was getting worse. I opened my laptop, started researching memory disorders, early onset dementia, Alzheimer's disease, dissociative amnesia, all the things Dr. Hammond had mentioned. The symptoms matched: memory loss, confusion, disorientation, difficulty forming new memories, or recalling recent events. All things I was apparently experiencing. But it didn't feel right. I felt fine. I felt like myself. I felt like I would know if something was wrong with my brain. Except people with memory disorders often don't know. That's part of the condition. The lack of insight, the inability to recognize your own impairment. I found a forum for people with early onset dementia. Read through posts from patients and caregivers. The stories were heartbreaking. People in their 30s and 40s losing themselves piece by piece, forgetting their children's names, getting lost in their own neighborhoods, unable to work or live independently. One post stood out. The hardest part is the denial. My husband insists nothing is wrong, even though he can't remember what he did yesterday or what we talked about an hour ago. He gets angry when I try to help him, accuses me of making things up. He doesn't understand that his brain is lying to him, filling in gaps with false certainty. He thinks he's fine. He thinks I'm the problem. I closed the laptop. Was that me? Was I the person insisting nothing was wrong while my brain deteriorated around me? Was I denying reality, clinging to a false sense of normalcy while I slowly lost myself? The thought was terrifying, but so was the alternative, that someone was using my identity, creating a false medical history, prescribing me medications I didn't need. That felt like paranoia, like conspiracy theory thinking. Which was more likely? A massive medical fraud targeting me specifically for no apparent reason? Or a memory disorder that was preventing me from recognizing my own illness? I knew what Dr. Hammond would say. I knew what any rational person would say, but something still felt wrong. Something I couldn't articulate, couldn't prove, couldn't even fully understand. I picked up the bottle of Zolpidem, the sleeping pills that had made me sleepwalk, made me write messages to myself. The label said to take one at bedtime. I'd taken one last night, and I'd woken up in my bathroom with no memory of getting there. What if I took two? It was a stupid idea, a dangerous idea, but I needed to know. I needed to understand what was happening to me. I shook out 2 pills, looked at them in my palm, then I swallowed them both. It was only 7 p.m. Early for bed. But I went anyway, lay down on top of the covers, and waited for the medication to kick in. I felt it happening gradually. A softening of the world. A gentle blur at the edges of my consciousness. My thoughts slowed down, became harder to hold on to. I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, I was standing in my kitchen. The lights were on. The clock on the microwave said 11:43 p.m. 4 hours had passed. I looked down. I was holding a piece of paper. A receipt from Westbrook Pharmacy dated today, October 16th, 7:32 p.m. But I'd been home by 7. I'd taken the sleeping pills around 7:15. I hadn't left the apartment. I looked at the receipt more carefully. It listed 3 prescriptions: Memantine, Donepezil, Alprazolam, all picked up at 7:32 p.m. All signed for by Sarah Vickers. I checked my coat by the door, found my car keys in the pocket. They were warm, like they'd been used recently. I went to my car, parked in the lot behind my building, checked the odometer. It had gone up by 4 miles since this morning. I'd driven somewhere, picked up prescriptions, driven back, all while under the influence of double the recommended dose of sleeping medication. And I didn't remember any of it. I went back inside, locked the door, checked the chain. Everything was secure. But I'd been out, I'd been driving, I'd been to the pharmacy. I looked at the prescriptions on my counter. The bottles were there, right where they should be, like they'd always been there, but they hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. I'd checked when I got home from Dr. Hammond's office, and these bottles hadn't been on my counter. Now they were. I opened the Memantine, the new medication. The bottle was full. 30 pills, the label said to start with 5 milligrams daily for 1 week, then increase to 10 milligrams. I shook one out, looked at it, then I put it back. I wasn't going to take it, not yet. Not until I understood what was happening. I needed proof, real proof, something concrete that would show me whether I was sick or whether something else was going on. I went to my computer, ordered a small camera online, the kind you can hide in a room to monitor for intruders. It would arrive tomorrow with same-day delivery. I'd set it up in my bedroom, pointing at the door. If I was sleepwalking, if I was leaving the apartment without remembering, the camera would catch it. And if someone else was coming in, if someone was drugging me or manipulating me, or doing something I couldn't explain, the camera would catch that too. I just needed to know. I needed to see the truth, whatever it was. That night I didn't take any sleeping pills. I stayed up, sitting on my couch, watching the door, making sure no one came in, making sure I didn't go out. I must have dozed off around 4 a.m. because I woke up to sunlight streaming through my window and my neck stiff from sleeping sitting up. The door was still locked, chain still on. No one had come in. I checked my car. Same mileage as last night. I hadn't gone anywhere. The camera arrived at noon. I set it up in my bedroom, angled so it would capture the doorway and most of the room. Connected it to an app on my phone so I could review the footage. Then I waited. I didn't take any medications that day. Didn't take the memantine. Didn't take the sleeping pills, didn't take anything. I wanted to be fully conscious, fully aware, fully myself. That night I went to bed normally, no pills, just me and the camera watching. I woke up at 3 a.m. I was in my car, parked outside a building I didn't recognize. The engine was running. My phone was on the passenger seat, the camera app open, showing my empty bedroom. I'd left. Again. Without remembering. I looked at the building. It was dark. Closed for the night. A sign out front said Westbrook Pharmacy. I was at the pharmacy. At 3 a.m, the pharmacy that was closed. But as I watched, a light came on inside. A figure moved past the window. Someone was in there. I got out of my car, walked up to the front door. It was locked, but through the glass, I could see someone moving around inside. A woman in a white coat. I knocked on the door. The woman looked up, saw me, smiled, came to the door and unlocked it. "Sarah," she said, "right on time. Come in." I didn't recognize her. She wasn't the pharmacist I'd seen when I picked up my antibiotics in March. She was younger, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. "Who are you?" I asked. "I'm Dr. We spoke on the phone yesterday. You said you needed to pick up your prescriptions after hours because of your work schedule." "I didn't call you." She looked confused. "Yes, you did. Yesterday afternoon. You said you'd be here at 3 a.m. I was asleep at 3 a.m. I didn't call you. I don't know how I got here." Dr. Chen's expression shifted, concern, recognition. "Oh, you're having an episode. It's okay. Come inside. Let's sit down." "I'm not having an episode. I don't know what's happening." "Sarah, you're dissociating. This is one of your symptoms. Hammond warned me this might happen. Come inside, please. You shouldn't be out here alone." She took my arm gently, guided me inside. The pharmacy was quiet, empty except for us. She led me to a chair behind the counter, had me sit. "I'm going to call Dr. Hammond," she said. "She'll know what to do." "No, I want to know what's going on. Why are you here at 3 a.m.? Why did you say I called you?" "You did call me. You said you needed your prescriptions but couldn't come during regular hours. This isn't the first time. We've made arrangements like this before." "When?" "Several times over the past few months." "You don't remember?" I shook my head. Chen pulled out her phone, showed me her call log. There it was. My number. Yesterday at 4 p.m. A 3-minute call. "I didn't make that call," I said. "Sarah, you need to understand something. Your memory disorder is causing you to do things you don't remember. Make calls, keep appointments, have conversations. And then later you have no recall of any of it. That's why Dr. Hammond has been working so closely with you. That's why you're on so many medications." "Show me the security footage," I said, "from the pharmacy. Show me the other times I've been here." Dr. Chen hesitated. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" "Because it might be distressing for you, seeing yourself do things you don't remember." "I need to see it." She sighed, turned to the computer behind the counter, pulled up a security system, scrolled through archived footage. "Here," she said. "This is from September 4th, the first time you came in after hours." The video showed the pharmacy at night. Empty, then the front door opening, a woman walking in. It was definitely me. Same face, same walk, same everything. But I was wearing clothes I didn't recognize. A red jacket I'd never seen before. The woman in the video walked up to the counter, talked to Doctor. I couldn't hear the audio, but I could see them having a conversation. The woman smiled, laughed at something, looked completely normal, completely lucid. Then she took a bag of prescriptions and left. "That's not me," I said. "Sarah, it's clearly you. I don't own a red jacket. I've never owned a red jacket." Dr. Chen pulled up another video. September 11th. You were wearing a green dress. Same thing. Me, but not me. Wearing clothes I didn't own, acting normal, picking up prescriptions. September 18th. Blue sweater. The blue sweater, the one from Dr. Hammond's photo, the one that smelled like perfume I'd never worn. In the video, I was wearing it. Talking to Doctor, looking perfectly fine. October 2nd. Black jeans and a gray hoodie. I owned black jeans. I owned a gray hoodie, but I didn't remember wearing them here. Didn't remember any of this. "How is this possible?" I whispered. "You have a dissociative disorder," Dr. Chen said gently. "When you dissociate, you continue to function, but you're not fully conscious. You do things on autopilot, and later you don't remember. It's like sleepwalking, but you're awake. But I'm talking in these videos, I'm having conversations. That's not autopilot." Dissociative states can be very complex. You can seem completely normal to other people while you're experiencing one. That's part of what makes the condition so difficult to treat. I watched the videos again, watched myself move and talk and smile, watched myself be someone I didn't recognize. "What about the clothes?" I asked. "I don't own most of these things." "You probably do. You might have bought them during dissociative episodes and not remembered, or you might have them in your closet and not realize it." I thought about my closet, about the blue sweater that smelled wrong, about all the clothes I owned, accumulated over years, some of which I barely remembered buying. Was it possible? Was I buying clothes I didn't remember, wearing them during episodes I couldn't recall, living parts of my life that were completely hidden from my conscious mind? "I need to go home," I said. "Let me call Dr. Hammond first. She should know about this episode." "No, I just want to go home." "Sarah, you drove here while dissociating. You might not be safe to drive back." "I'll be fine." I stood up, headed for the door. Chen didn't try to stop me, but I could feel her watching as I left. I got in my car, sat there for a minute, looked at the pharmacy through the windshield. The lights were still on. Chen was on the phone, probably calling Dr. Hammond like she'd said. I drove home carefully, paying attention to every turn, every stop sign, proving to myself that I was in control, that I was conscious, that I was me. When I got back to my apartment, I went straight to my closet, started pulling out clothes, looking at tags, trying to remember when I'd bought each item. The blue sweater, I remembered buying it last November at a department store, on sale, but I didn't remember it smelling like that perfume. Didn't remember wearing it to Dr. Hammond's office. I found a red jacket pushed to the back. I stared at it. I didn't remember buying it, didn't remember ever seeing it before. But it was my size. It had my style. It was something I might have chosen. I checked the pockets, found a receipt from a store I recognized dated August 22nd, 3 months ago. I'd bought this jacket, I just didn't remember. I sat down on my bedroom floor surrounded by clothes and tried to make sense of it all. Either I had a severe dissociative disorder that was causing me to live parts of my life without conscious awareness, or someone was gaslighting me on a massive scale, creating fake videos, planting clothes in my closet, manipulating my entire reality. One of those options was insane. The other was terrifying. I didn't know which was worse. I pulled out my phone, opened the camera app, checked the footage from tonight. It showed me getting into bed around 11 p.m., lying there for about an hour, then getting up, getting dressed, and walking out of the room. I watched myself move through the apartment, grab my keys, leave through the front door. All of it smooth, deliberate, purposeful, not like sleepwalking, like someone fully awake and aware. But I didn't remember any of it. I scrolled back through the footage, looking for anything unusual, anything that might explain what was happening. And then I saw it. Right before I got up, right before I started moving, there was a moment where I sat up in bed, looked directly at the camera, and smiled. It wasn't my smile. It was something else. Something wrong. Then I got up and left. I watched that moment again and again, watched myself sit up, look at the camera, smile. That wrong smile, like I knew the camera was there, like I was performing for it, or like someone else was looking out through my eyes. I needed help, real help. Not Dr. Hammond, not Dr. Chen, not anyone involved in this medical system that seemed to know more about me than I knew about myself. I needed someone objective, someone who could tell me if I was crazy or if something genuinely wrong was happening. I called my sister back. "Sarah, it's 4 a.m. "I know, I'm sorry. I need you to come over, please." "What's wrong? Are you okay? I don't know. I think I might be sick. Or I think something might be happening to me. I can't tell the difference anymore. I'm coming. Give me 20 minutes. She arrived in 15. I let her in and she took one look at me and pulled me into a hug. You look terrible, she said. When's the last time you slept? I don't know. I can't trust my sleep anymore. I showed her everything, the prescriptions, the medical records, the security footage from the pharmacy, the camera footage from my bedroom. All of it. She watched the video of me smiling at the camera and her face went pale. That's not you, she said. What do you mean? That expression, that smile. That's not how you smile. That's not you. But it is me. It's my face. I know, but she watched it again. Something's wrong with it. It's like someone doing an impression of you, getting it almost right, but not quite. You think I'm being possessed or something? I don't know what I think, but that video is creepy as hell. She looked at the medical records. Read through Dr. Hammond's "This is detailed," she said. Really detailed. If this is fake, someone put a lot of work into it. But you don't remember me mentioning any of this? Any doctor's appointments? Any health problems? No? You've seemed normal to me. Maybe a little more tired lately, but nothing that would make me think you had serious memory problems. So either I'm hiding it really well, or it's not real. Or both, she said quietly. We sat there for a while, not talking, just being together. Finally, she said, I think you should see a different doctor, someone not connected to Dr. Hammond. Get a second opinion. And if they say the same thing, if they say I have a memory disorder, then we deal with it together. But at least you'll know for sure. I nodded. It made sense. It was rational. But part of me was terrified of what another doctor might find. Terrified that they'd confirm everything Dr. Hammond had said. That I was sick. That I was losing myself. That I couldn't trust my own mind. There's something else, I said. Something I haven't told you. I showed her the bottle of donepezil, the memory medication I'd supposedly been taking since April. Dr. Hammond said this is what started everything, that I came to her complaining about memory problems, and she put me on this. Okay? But what if it's the opposite? What if this medication is causing the memory problems, not treating them? My sister frowned. Why would a doctor prescribe something that makes you worse? I don't know, but think about it. I was fine before April. No memory problems, no dissociative episodes, nothing. Then I supposedly start taking this medication and suddenly I'm having all these symptoms. That's not how medications work, Sarah. They don't create the diseases they're supposed to treat. Don't they? I pulled up my research from earlier. Look at this. It's called iatrogenic illness. Disease caused by medical treatment. It's a real thing. And there's something called a prescription cascade, I continued, where one medication causes side effects that get treated with another medication, which causes more side effects, which get treated with more medications. It's a cycle. My sister read through the articles I'd found. So you think Dr. Hammond gave you a medication that caused memory problems, then kept giving you more medications to treat the side effects? Maybe. I don't know, but it's possible, right? It's possible, but it's also possible that you have a real condition and the medications are helping, even if you don't remember taking them. There's one way to find out, I said. I stop taking everything, all of it, and we see what happens. That could be dangerous. If you really need these medications, then I'll get worse, and we'll know. But if I don't need them, if they're causing the problems, then I should get better. Or you could have withdrawal symptoms, or your condition could deteriorate. Sarah, you can't just stop taking medications without medical supervision. I can't trust medical supervision, not anymore. She looked at me for a long moment. Okay, but I'm staying with you. If you're going to do this, you're not doing it alone. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You're my sister, and frankly, you're scaring me. So I'm staying. I felt relief wash over me. I wasn't alone. Whatever was happening, I had someone on my side. We spent the rest of the night talking, planning. My sister would stay with me for the next week. We'd document everything. How I felt, what I remembered, any symptoms or changes, and we'd see what happened when I stopped taking the medications. It was risky. It was probably stupid, but it was the only way I could think of to get answers. The next morning, I called Dr. Hammond's office and canceled all future appointments. The receptionist sounded concerned, said Dr. Hammond would want to speak with me about this decision, but I insisted. Then I gathered up all the prescription bottles, put them in a box, and shoved the box in the back of my closet, out of sight. My sister made breakfast, we ate together, and I tried to remember the last time I'd done something this normal, this ordinary. I couldn't. The first day without medications was fine. I felt normal, maybe a little anxious, but that seemed reasonable given the circumstances. The second day, I woke up with a headache. My sister said that could be withdrawal or it could just be stress. We documented it and moved on. The third day, I felt foggy, like my thoughts were moving through mud. My sister asked me questions to test my memory. What did we have for breakfast yesterday? What did we talk about last night? I answered everything correctly, but it took effort. The fourth day, I felt better, clearer, like something was lifting. The fifth day, I woke up and couldn't remember my sister's name. I looked at her across the breakfast table, and I knew her face. I knew she was important to me. I knew she was family. But her name was gone. "What's wrong?" she asked. "I can't remember your name." Her face went white. "Sarah, it's me. It's Jenny. Your sister." Jenny, right. Of course. Jenny. The name felt foreign in my mouth, like I was learning it for the first time. "I know," I said. "I know you're my sister. I just forgot for a second. We need to get you back on the medications. No, this could be withdrawal. It could be temporary. Or it could be your memory disorder getting worse because you're not treating it." I didn't have an answer for that. The rest of the day, I kept forgetting small things, where I'd put my phone, what we'd just been talking about, whether I'd eaten lunch. Jenny watched me with increasing worry. That night, I had a dream, or maybe it wasn't a dream. I was in Dr. Hammond's office, sitting on the exam table, but Dr. Hammond wasn't there. Instead, there was a woman I didn't recognize. Older, with silver hair and kind eyes. "Hello, Sarah," she said. "Who are you?" "I'm Dr. Patricia Hammond, the real one." "I don't understand." "The woman you've been seeing, the one who's been prescribing your medications, she's not me. She's using my name, my credentials, but she's not Dr. Hammond." "Then who is she?" "I don't know. But I need you to listen very carefully. The medications she's giving you aren't what she says they are. They're not treating a memory disorder. They're creating one. Why? I don't know. But you need to stop taking them. You need to remember. Remember what? What happened in March? What really happened? I woke up gasping. Jenny was beside me immediately. Bad dream? I don't know. Maybe. But it hadn't felt like a dream. It had felt like a memory. Like something trying to surface from beneath layers of fog. March. What had happened in March? I'd gone to urgent care. Sinus infection. Got antibiotics. But what else? What was I forgetting? I tried to think back. March 23rd, my sister's birthday. I'd been sick at her party. But before that, before the sinus infection, there was something there, something important. I couldn't reach it. Jenny, I said, your birthday in March. Do you remember me being sick? Yeah, you had a sinus infection. You kept blowing your nose. But before that, earlier in March, did I tell you about anything unusual happening? She thought about it. You called me once, said you'd seen something weird at work, but you work from home, so I didn't really understand what you meant. What did I see? I don't remember. You said it was probably nothing, and we moved on to talking about other things. Something weird at work? What did that mean? I worked from home doing data entry for an insurance company. What could I have seen that was weird? I went to my computer, opened my work files, started scrolling through the data I'd been entering over the past year. Insurance claims, medical records, patient information, hundreds of files, thousands of records. I searched for my own name. Sarah Vickers. Nothing. I searched for Dr. Patricia Hammond. One result. A claim from April 9th for a patient named Sarah Vickers. I opened the file. It was a medical claim for an office visit. Hammond's practice. Patient, Sarah Vickers. Date of birth, March 11th, 1996. But the claim had been filed by someone else. Someone at the insurance company where I worked. I checked the employee ID on the claim. It was mine. I had filed this claim. I had entered this data. I had processed my own medical records. But I didn't remember doing it. I scrolled through more files, found more claims, all for Sarah Vickers, all filed by me. I'd been processing my own medical data for 6 months, entering my own prescriptions, my own diagnoses, my own treatment plans, creating my own medical history. Oh my God, I whispered. What? Jenny came over, looked at the screen. I did this. I created all of this. The medical records, the prescriptions, everything. I entered it all into the insurance system. But why would you do that? I don't know. I don't remember doing it. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't quite true. Because somewhere deep in my mind, beneath all the fog and confusion, I did remember. I remembered sitting at this computer in March. I remembered seeing something in the data I was entering. Something that shouldn't have been there. A patient file. For someone who didn't exist, or someone who existed but shouldn't have had medical records. Someone who had been declared dead. I'd flagged it, reported it to my supervisor. I said there was an error in the system. And then what? The memory wouldn't come. It was like trying to grab smoke. But I knew it was important. I knew it was the key to everything. I need to go to my office, I said. You work from home? No, the main office, where the servers are, where the original files are stored. Sarah, it's almost midnight. I don't care. I need to see those files, the original data, before I entered it. I need to know what I saw. Jenny looked at me like I was losing it. Maybe I was. Okay, she said, but I'm coming with you. We drove downtown to the insurance company building. It was dark, locked up for the night, but I had a key card for emergencies, for times when I needed to access the physical files. I'd never used it before, but I knew it would work. We went inside. The building was empty, silent. Our footsteps echoed on the tile floor. I led Jenny to the records room on the 3rd floor, unlocked the door with my card. Inside were rows and rows of filing cabinets, paper records that hadn't been digitized yet, old claims, old files, old data. I found the section for March, started pulling files, and there it was. The file I'd seen, the one that had started everything. Patient name, Sarah Vickers. But not me. A different Sarah Vickers, born March 11th, 1976, 20 years older than me. According to the file, she died in February. Car accident. But in March, she'd filed a medical claim for an appointment with Dr. Patricia Hammond. A dead woman had gone to the doctor. I'd flagged it, reported it, said it was obviously an error, someone using a deceased person's identity, and then someone had come to talk to me about it. The memory was coming back now piece by piece, a woman in a white coat. Hammond, she'd said. She'd come to my apartment to discuss the error I'd found. She'd been very nice, very understanding. She'd explained that it was a clerical mistake, that the patient wasn't actually dead, that the death certificate had been filed in error. She'd asked me to correct the record, to change the date of birth in the system, to make the Sarah Vickers in the file match my date of birth instead. Just a simple correction, a small favor. And I'd done it because she was a doctor and she seemed trustworthy, and it was easier to just fix the error than to make a big deal about it. But it hadn't been an error. It had been the beginning. Because once I'd changed that record, once I'd made that Sarah Vickers into me, the system had started generating more records, more appointments, more prescriptions, more claims, all automatically, all based on that first false entry. And then the prescriptions had started arriving. Real medications based on fake records. And I'd started taking them because the labels had my name, and I trusted the system. The Donepezil, the memory medication, I'd been taking it since April, and it had been working exactly as intended, not to improve my memory, to impair it, to make me forget what I'd seen, to make me forget the original Sarah Vickers, to make me forget that I'd changed the records, to make me forget who I really was. Jenny, I said, I need you to tell me something, and I need you to be completely honest. Okay. Is my name really Sarah Vickers? She stared at me. What kind of question is that? Just answer me, please. Of course it is. You've been Sarah Vickers your whole life. You're my sister. I've known you since you were born. What's my middle name? She hesitated. You don't have a middle name? What's my mother's maiden name? Thompson. What hospital was I born in? St. Mary's. Every answer came without hesitation. Every answer was something only my real sister would know. But I didn't remember any of it. I didn't remember my mother's maiden name. I didn't remember being born at St. Mary's. I didn't remember my own life. How long have I been living in my apartment? I asked. About 2 years. You moved in after you got your job with the insurance company. What job did I have before that? You worked at a bookstore, that little one on Maple Street that closed down. I didn't remember working at a bookstore. I didn't remember moving into my apartment 2 years ago. My earliest memory was from about 6 months ago. Everything before that was vague, fuzzy, like something I'd been told about rather than experienced. Jenny, I think something's really wrong. I know, that's why we need to get you back on your medications. No, the medications are what's wrong. They're making me forget. They're erasing me. Sarah, you're not making sense. I'm not Sarah. The words came out before I could stop them. But as soon as I said them, I knew they were true. I wasn't Sarah Vickers. I was someone else. Someone who'd been given that name, that identity, that life. Someone who'd been turned into Sarah Vickers to replace the real one. The one who died in February. You're scaring me, Jenny said. I'm scaring myself. I looked at the file in my hands, at the death certificate for Sarah Vickers, born March 11th, 1976. Car accident, February 14th. Valentine's Day. No survivors. But that wasn't quite right, because there was a patient had twin sister. Notify next of kin. Twin sister. I looked at Jenny. Really looked at her. She looked like me. Same face, same hair, same build. But she was older. Not much, but enough to notice if you were paying attention. 20 years older. The age difference between me and the dead Sarah Vickers. You're not my sister, I said. Of course I am. No. You're Sarah's sister, the real Sarah. The one who died. Jenny's expression changed. The concern, the worry, all of it dropped away. What was left was something cold. You're having a memory episode, she said carefully. We need to get you home, get you back on your medications. I'm not having an episode. I'm remembering. For the first time in 6 months, I'm actually remembering. Remembering what? That I'm not Sarah Vickers. That you and Dr. Hammond and everyone else have been lying to me. That you've been drugging me to make me forget who I really am. And who are you if you're not Sarah? I didn't know. That was the terrifying part. I didn't know my real name, my real history, my real life. The medications had taken all of that, had erased everything that came before. But I knew I wasn't Sarah Vickers. I knew that identity had been forced on me, layered over whoever I used to be. I don't know, I admitted, but I'm going to find out. Jenny pulled out her phone, started dialing. Who are you calling? Dr. Hammond, you need help. I grabbed the phone from her hand, threw it across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. I don't need help. I need answers. You're not well. You're confused, paranoid. This is what happens when you stop taking your medications. Or this is what happens when I finally start thinking clearly. I backed away from her toward the door. Where are you going? Away from you. Away from Dr. Hammond. Away from all of this. Sarah, please. You can't just leave. You're not safe. Stop calling me Sarah. That's not my name. I ran. Out of the records room, down the stairs, through the lobby. Jenny called after me, but I didn't stop. I got in my car, drove away, didn't know where I was going, just knew I had to get away. I drove for hours, out of the city into the countryside. Kept driving until the sun came up and I was in a town I didn't recognize. I stopped at a diner, sat in a booth, ordered coffee. I didn't drink. I needed to think. Needed to figure out what to do, and if I wasn't Sarah Vickers, then who was I? Where had I come from? How had I ended up in this situation? I pulled out my phone. No calls from Jenny, which was strange. She should have been calling nonstop, trying to find me. Unless she knew I'd figure out how to track my phone. Unless she was giving me space deliberately, or unless she was already tracking me and didn't need to call. I turned off my phone, pulled out the SIM card, left it on the table. Then I paid for my coffee and left. I needed help. Real help. But I couldn't trust doctors, couldn't trust the medical system, couldn't trust anyone who might be connected to Dr. Hammond. I needed to find out who I really was. And there was only one way to do that. I needed to find out what happened to the real Sarah Vickers, why she died, and why someone thought I could replace her. I spent the next few days in that small town, staying in a cheap motel, paying cash. I used the motel's computer to research the accident that killed Sarah Vickers. It had happened on February 14th, on a highway outside the city. Single car accident. Sarah had lost control of her vehicle, crashed into a barrier, died on impact. No other vehicles involved. No witnesses. Just Sarah. Alone. Driving home from somewhere. The police report was brief. No signs of foul play. No alcohol or drugs in her system. Just a tragic accident. But something about it bothered me. The location. Sarah had crashed on a highway that wasn't on the way to her home. She'd been driving in the wrong direction. Where had she been going? I dug deeper, found Sarah's social media accounts, still active even though she was dead. Her last post was from February 13th, the day before she died. Meeting with Dr. H tomorrow. Finally getting answers. Dr. Hammond. Sarah had been going to see Dr. Hammond the day she died. And she'd never made it. I felt cold. If Sarah had been on her way to Dr. Hammond's office when she crashed, and if there was no evidence of foul play, then either it was a genuine accident or someone had been very careful. But why would anyone want Sarah dead? I kept digging, found more posts, going back months. Sarah had been sick, really sick. Some kind of rare neurological condition that was causing memory problems, personality changes, cognitive decline. She'd been seeing multiple doctors, trying to find treatment. And finally, she'd found Dr. Hammond, a specialist who said she could help. Hammond had started Sarah on an experimental treatment, new medications, cutting-edge therapy. Sarah had been hopeful, excited, and then she died. I sat back, trying to make sense of it all. Sarah Vickers had been sick. She'd been seeing Dr. Hammond for treatment, and then she died in a car accident on her way to an appointment. After her death, someone had used her identity to create a fake medical history, had assigned that identity to me, had started me on medications that erased my memory, made me forget who I was, had turned me into Sarah Vickers. But why? What was the point? Unless Sarah hadn't died. Unless the death certificate was fake, just like everything else. Unless Sarah was still alive, and I was the experiment. the test subject for whatever Dr. Hammond had been doing. Or unless I was Sarah, and the medications had made me forget, had made me believe I was someone else, had erased my entire life up until 6 months ago. I didn't know which was worse. I needed to see Dr. Hammond. The real one, if there was a real one. I needed answers, but I couldn't just walk into her office. She'd be expecting that. She'd be ready. I needed a different approach. I went back to the city at night, parked a few blocks from Dr. Hammond's building, waited until the offices were closed, the building mostly empty. Then I went inside. The security guard at the front desk barely looked at me. I flashed an old work ID from the insurance company, said I was there to pick up some files. He waved me through. I took the elevator to the 4th floor, Suite 412. The door was locked, but the lock was cheap. I'd learned how to pick locks in college, a skill I'd apparently retained even if I'd forgotten everything else about my life. Inside, the office was dark. I used my phone's flashlight to navigate, found Dr. Hammond's private office. Her computer was password protected, but her filing cabinets weren't. I started going through patient files, found dozens of them, hundreds, all women, all around the same age, all with similar diagnoses: memory disorders, cognitive decline, neurological conditions, and all prescribed the same medications I'd been taking. I found Sarah Vickers's file, the real one, from before she died. It was extensive. Years of medical history, going back to when she was a teenager. The neurological condition had started early, progressed slowly. By the time she found Dr. Hammond, she was desperate. Hammond's patient presents with advanced cognitive decline, memory loss severe, personality fragmentation evident, excellent candidate for Protocol 7. Protocol 7. What was Protocol 7? I kept reading. Began Protocol 7 treatment regimen, patient responding well, memory consolidation improving. However, personality integration remains problematic. Patient resists treatment, questions reality of condition, may need to implement Phase 2 earlier than planned. Phase 2. Phase 2 initiated, patient now fully compliant. Memory of pre-treatment life successfully suppressed. Identity reconstruction proceeding as expected. Identity reconstruction. They'd been erasing Sarah's memories, rebuilding her personality, turning her into someone new. And then she died. Or disappeared, or something. And they'd needed a replacement. Someone to continue the experiment. Someone to test whether the protocol could work on a healthy brain, not just a damaged one. But who was I before? What was my real name? I found another file. No name on it, just a number. 7-4. Inside were medical records. But not Sarah's. Someone else's. My records, my real records. Name, date of birth, March 11th, 1996. The same birthday as Sarah. That wasn't a coincidence. I'd been chosen specifically. Someone with the same birthday, similar appearance, similar background. Someone who could be molded into Sarah Vickers. The file detailed my abduction. That's what it was, even if the word wasn't used. I'd been approached by Dr. Hammond in March, told I'd won some kind of medical research lottery. Free healthcare, free prescriptions, just needed to participate in a study. I'd agreed. because I was broke, because I didn't have insurance, because it seemed like a good deal. And then they'd started the medications, started erasing my memories, started rebuilding me as Sarah Vickers. The file included photos, before and after. The before photo showed a woman I didn't recognize. Different hair, different clothes, different expression, but the same face. My face. That was me. That was who I used to be. I stared at the photo, trying to feel some recognition, some connection to that person. Nothing. She was a stranger. They'd taken everything. My name, my history, my identity. They'd erased it all and replaced it with Sarah Vickers. And they'd almost succeeded. If I hadn't stopped taking the medications, if I hadn't started questioning, I would have become Sarah completely. Would have forgotten there was ever anyone else. I heard a sound behind me, turned to see Dr. Hammond standing in the doorway. "I was wondering when you'd find your way here," she said. She didn't seem surprised, didn't seem angry, just calm, clinical. "Who am I?" I asked. "You're Sarah Vickers. That's who you've been for 6 months. That's who you'll continue to be." "No. Who was I before? Does it matter?" "That person is gone. We made sure of it." "Why? Why did you do this to me?" "Because the research requires it. Because we need to understand how identity forms, how memory shapes personality, how we can reconstruct a person from the ground up. Sarah Vickers was our first success, but she was compromised by her pre-existing condition. We needed a clean slate, someone healthy, someone we could transform completely. I'm a person, not an experiment. You're both, and you should be grateful. The person you were before, she was nobody. No family, no friends, no prospects. We gave you a better life. A sister who cares about you. A medical team monitoring your health. A purpose. You took everything from me. We gave you everything, and if you just kept taking your medications, you'd be happy. You'd be Sarah fully and completely, with no memory of who you used to be. No pain, no confusion, no questions. I'd rather have questions than be someone I'm not. Dr. Hammond sighed. This is why phase 2 is so important. You're still resisting, still clinging to some idea of a self that doesn't exist anymore. But we can fix that. We can help you let go. She pulled out a syringe from her coat pocket. This is a higher dose of the memory medication, combined with a sedative. You'll sleep for a few days, and when you wake up, all of this will be gone. You'll be Sarah again, fully, permanently. I backed away. You can't do this. I already have. 12 times now. You're not the first person we've reconstructed, and you won't be the last. Where are the others? Living their new lives, happy, healthy, unaware that they were ever anyone else. She moved closer. I looked around for a weapon, something to defend myself with. Don't make this difficult, Dr. Hammond said. You're going to forget this conversation anyway. Might as well make it painless. I grabbed a stapler from the desk, threw it at her. It hit her shoulder, made her stumble back. I ran. Out of the office. Down the hallway toward the stairs. I could hear her behind me calling for security. I made it to the ground floor. Past the security guard who was just starting to react, out into the night. I ran for blocks, didn't stop until my lungs were burning and my legs were shaking. Then I found a 24-hour coffee shop, went inside, locked myself in the bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror, tried to see the person I used to be, tried to remember her name, her life, her identity. But she was gone. Hammond had been right about that. Whoever I'd been before, she'd been erased so thoroughly that I couldn't find even a trace of her. All I had left was Sarah Vickers. A false identity built on lies and medications and stolen memories. But it was all I had. I washed my face, dried it with paper towels, made a decision. I couldn't go back. Couldn't let Dr. Hammond catch me. Couldn't let them erase what little I'd managed to remember. But I couldn't move forward either. Couldn't build a new life when I didn't know who I was. I was stuck. Trapped between two identities belonging to neither. The pharmacy knows what you need before you feel it missing. That's what the pharmacist had said. And she'd been right. They'd known I would question eventually. They'd known I would resist. They'd prepared for it. All those prescriptions, all those medications, they weren't just treating conditions I didn't have. They were preparing me for the moment when I'd try to break free. The anti-anxiety medication for when I got paranoid. The sleeping pills for when I couldn't rest. The memory medication to keep me from remembering too much. They'd been building a cage around me, one prescription at a time. And I'd been taking the pills, locking myself in. But I was out now. Or as free as someone with no identity could be. I left the bathroom, ordered coffee, sat in a corner booth. I needed a plan. Needed to figure out what to do, and I could go to the police. Tell them everything. But what proof did I have? My own medical record said I was Sarah Vickers. My own sister confirmed it. The only evidence that I was anyone else was in Dr. Hammond's office, and she'd probably destroyed it by now. I could try to find the others, the 12 people Dr. Hammond had mentioned. See if any of them remembered who they used to be. But how would I find them? I didn't have names, didn't have addresses, didn't have anything. I could run, leave the city, start over somewhere else. But without an identity, without papers, without money, how far would I get? I was trapped, not by Dr. Hammond anymore, but by the situation she'd created, by the person she'd turned me into. Sarah Vickers was dead, but I was wearing her life like a costume I couldn't take off. My phone buzzed. I'd forgotten I'd turned it back on. A text from an unknown number. The pharmacy knows what you need before you feel it missing. Come home, Sarah. Let us help you. I stared at the message. They were still tracking me, still watching, still waiting for me to give up and come back. Another teed. You have a prescription ready for pickup. Alprazolam. For anxiety. You must be feeling very anxious right now. They were right, I was anxious. Terrified, actually. Another T. sertraline. For depression. You must be feeling very depressed. I was. I was feeling hopeless, lost, broken. Another T. Zolpidem. For insomnia. You must be having trouble sleeping. I hadn't slept in days. Not really. Not without nightmares. Another T. Donepezil. For memory. You must be having trouble remembering who you are. I started crying, Right there in the coffee shop, tears streaming down my face because they were right about all of it. I was anxious and depressed and exhausted and confused. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what to do. And they had medications for all of it. Solutions for every problem, a pill for every pain. All I had to do was go back, take the prescriptions, let them help me, let them erase me completely. My phone buzzed again. One more tea. Or you can keep fighting, keep resisting, keep suffering. The choice is yours, Sarah. It's always been yours. I looked at the phone for a long time. Then I made my choice. I'm still out here, still running, still trying to figure out who I am beneath the identity they gave me. Some days I think about going back, about how easy it would be to just give in, take the medications, become Sarah Vickers completely. But I can't. Because somewhere in my mind, buried under all the false memories and reconstructed personality, there's still a trace of whoever I used to be. And she deserves to be remembered, even if I'm the only one who can do it. The prescriptions still come. I get notifications on my phone, texts from Westbrook Pharmacy. Your medication is ready. Your refills are due. Hammond would like to see you. I delete them all. But sometimes, late at night, when the anxiety gets bad and the insomnia won't let me rest, and the depression feels like it's drowning me, I think about those pills, about how easy it would be, how peaceful. The pharmacy knows what you need before you feel it missing. And maybe they're right. Maybe I do need those medications. Maybe I am sick, and they're the only thing that can help me. Or maybe that's just what they want me to think. I don't know anymore. I can't tell the difference between what's real and what's been programmed into me. All I know is that I'm still here, still fighting, still trying to remember. My name isn't Sarah Vickers.